Have you ever felt exhausted by someone who never raised their voice, never insulted you, and always smiled when they spoke to you, yet somehow you were always doing what they wanted? That is not kindness. That is one of the most sophisticated forms of control ever designed by human psychology. The dangerous manipulators are not always the aggressive ones. The dangerous ones are the ones who learned how to weaponize warmth. They never threaten. They never demand. Instead, they make you feel guilty. They make you feel ungrateful. They make you feel like you are the problem, while they quietly pull every string from behind a mask of generosity. Friedrich Nietzsche saw this centuries ago. He understood that power does not always arrive as a fist. Sometimes it arrives as a favor. Sometimes it arrives wrapped in sacrifice. And most people never recognize it because they are too afraid to question someone who appears to be so kind. In this video, you will discover 7 signs that someone using kindness is actually using control. These are the subtle patterns that most people completely miss until it is far too late. Pay close attention to every single point, because the psychology behind this is deeper than most people realize. And the final point, the 7th one, is often the most revealing of all. Let's begin. 1. They give constantly, but they always keep score. At first glance, this person seems like the most generous soul you have ever met. They help without being asked. They offer before you even realize you need something. They give gifts, time, energy, and favors with a warm smile and zero visible expectation. It seems harmless, it seems beautiful even. But here's the truth. Every single thing they give is an invisible transaction. They are not giving freely, they are building a debt. And the moment you fail to meet their expectations, fail to prioritize them, or fail to behave the way they believe you should, that debt is called in. Suddenly, they remember every sacrifice they made, every favor, every late night, every time they showed up for you. Observe carefully. People who give freely do not weaponize their generosity. People who give as a control strategy always do. In reality, this behavior is rooted in insecurity and a deep need for power. They cannot ask directly for what they want, so they manufacture obligation through giving. Nietzsche observed that the most dangerous form of power is not taken by force, it is created through obligation. What you must remember is this: generosity without expectation is love. Generosity that demands repayment is control wearing a very convincing disguise. Notice the difference before the debt becomes too large to escape. 2. They use your guilt as a leash. Most people don't notice this one until they are already trapped inside it. This person never yells, they never accuse. Instead, they simply sigh, they go quiet. They say things like, "No, it's fine, don't worry about me." And somehow, those 5 words hit harder than any argument ever could. It seems harmless, just someone expressing disappointment, just someone who is sensitive. But here's the truth. Guilt is one of the most powerful emotional control mechanisms in human psychology, and a skilled manipulator knows exactly how to produce it on demand. They do not need to threaten you. They simply need to make you feel like you have failed them, and watch you correct your behavior to ease the discomfort. Think about it. Why do you keep going back? Why do you keep adjusting your choices? Because the guilt they generate in you is more powerful than any order they could give. The problem is that genuine people express hurt and then move forward. Controllers express hurt and then wait, because your behavior change is the goal. Nietzsche believed that guilt, when used strategically, is the most effective weapon ever placed inside the human conscience. Notice when guilt appears, especially notice how convenient its timing always is. That is where the control lives. 3. They frame every boundary you set as a betrayal. This is where things become interesting. You try to say no, you try to create space, you try to protect your time or your energy, and suddenly the conversation shifts entirely. At first glance, they seem hurt, they seem confused. They ask questions like, "After everything I have done for you," or "I thought we were closer than that." It seems like genuine emotional pain. Most people back down immediately because they do not want to be the person who caused it. But here's the truth. A healthy person respects a boundary even when it hurts. A controlling person punishes a boundary, not with aggression, but with sadness, withdrawal, or subtle reminders of all they have sacrificed for you. Observe carefully. The purpose of this behavior is to make setting a boundary feel more painful than simply surrendering it. And if you surrender it often enough, you eventually stop trying to set one at all. In reality, this is resentment and ego operating beneath a surface of sensitivity. They need access to you. They need influence over you. A boundary is a direct threat to that. Nietzsche warned that those who cannot tolerate your independence do not actually love you. they are attached to their power over you. Remember this: someone who truly respects you will be uncomfortable with your boundary and still honor it. The ones who punish you for having one never respected you to begin with. 4. They subtly discourage your growth. Most people fail to notice this one because it never sounds like opposition. It sounds like concern, it sounds like wisdom, it sounds like care. They say things like, "Are you sure that's a good idea?" Or "I just don't want to see you get hurt," or "You've tried things like this before and it didn't work out." Always delivered softly, always delivered with a worried expression. It seems like good advice from someone who knows you. But here's the truth: a person who genuinely wants you to succeed builds your confidence. A person who wants to control you quietly erodes it, because a confident, growing, independent version of you is far harder to manage. Think about it: why does their concern always appear precisely when you are about to do something that would make you stronger, more independent, or more successful? That timing is not accidental. The problem is that doubt planted by someone you trust grows faster and deeper than doubt you create yourself. This behavior is rooted in envy and fear: the fear that your growth will create distance, and the envy of what you might become without them holding the center of your world. According to Nietzsche, those who fear your ascent will always disguise their interference as protection. What to notice: whose voice is loudest inside your head when you are about to take a risk? And ask yourself honestly, does that voice lift you? Or does it quietly hold you in place? 5. They create dependency by making themselves indispensable. At first glance, this person is simply reliable. They are always there. They help with everything. They solve problems before you even fully understand them. They become so woven into your daily life that removing them feels impossible. It seems like devotion. It seems like deep commitment. But here's the truth: there is a profound difference between someone who helps you become capable and someone who helps you in a way that keeps you needing them. One builds you up. The other quietly builds a wall around you made entirely of their own usefulness. Observe carefully. They rarely teach you how to do things yourself. They prefer to do it for you, because for you means you keep coming back. It means they remain necessary. It means their position in your life is secured. In reality, this behavior is driven by a deep fear of abandonment and a desperate need for status. If you do not need them, they lose their role, and their role is their control. Nietzsche observed that those who make themselves impossible to replace often do so not out of love, but out of an unconscious terror of being overlooked. What you must remember: real love empowers you. Real friendship makes you more capable. Anyone who consistently keeps you dependent on them is not devoted to your well-being, they are devoted to your need for them. Those are two very different things. 6. They rewrite history to maintain the upper hand. This is where things become deeply unsettling. You remember a conversation one way. You remember what was said, what was agreed upon, what happened. But when you bring it up, they remember it completely differently. It seems like a simple misunderstanding. Most people doubt themselves and let it go. But here's the truth: this is not a memory error. This is a control mechanism called narrative ownership, the ability to control a relationship by controlling the story of that relationship. If they define what happened, they define who was right. If they define who was right, they define who owes whom an apology. And that apology resets the power dynamic entirely in their favor. Think about it: why does their version of events always position them as the one who gave more, sacrificed more, or was wronged more? Probability alone makes that statistically impossible. The problem is that when you begin to doubt your own memory, you begin to doubt your own reality. And a person who doubts their own reality becomes incredibly easy to guide. This behavior is rooted in ego and a pathological need to never be wrong, because being wrong would mean losing the moral authority they use to control you. Nietzsche believed that those who control the narrative of the past control the behavior of the present. Trust your memory, trust your perception. The moment someone makes you feel confused about what you clearly experienced, pay very close attention to why that confusion is so convenient for them. 7. Their kindness vanishes the moment you no longer serve them. And here it is, the final sign, and often the most revealing one of all. At first glance, this person has been nothing but warm, generous, and caring throughout your entire relationship. You have years of good memories, years of their support. It seems impossible that it could all just disappear. But here's the truth: watch what happens when you change. Watch what happens when you set a firm boundary and hold it. Watch what happens when you stop being available, stop being grateful enough, stop fitting the role they needed you to play. The warmth does not fade gradually. it switches off, cleanly, almost instantly. Observe carefully. Genuine love does not evaporate because you became less convenient. Genuine friendship does not dissolve because you grew in a direction they did not plan for. But control ends the moment the controlled person stops cooperating. In reality, the kindness was never really about you. It was about what you represented to them: access, validation, status, or simply someone to anchor their sense of power. Nietzsche warned that when someone's affection is entirely conditional on your compliance, what you experienced was never affection, it was investment. Remember this above everything else: real people stay even when you are difficult. They stay even when you say no. They stay even when your growth inconveniences them. Anyone whose kindness disappears the moment you stop serving their needs was never kind to begin with. They were simply patient. Here is your bonus. Every single sign in this video shares one hidden root, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The kind controller does not believe they are manipulating you. That is what makes them so dangerous. In their own mind, they are the generous one. They are the misunderstood one. They are the one who gave everything and received nothing in return. This is the most sophisticated psychological trap in human relationships because it means they will never confess. They will never stop. And they will never understand why you pulled away, because in the story they have written, they were always the victim. Nietzsche called this ressentiment, a deep psychological state where a person who feels powerless secretly builds elaborate systems of moral superiority and emotional manipulation to gain power over others, while genuinely believing they are the wounded party. The kind controller is not evil. They are broken in a way they have never examined. But here is what you must never forget. Their pain does not give them the right to quietly dismantle yours. Understanding why someone controls you is not the same as accepting that they should. You can have compassion for why someone became this way and still walk away. In fact, sometimes walking away is the most compassionate thing you can do, for both of you. These 7 signs are not always obvious. They are built to be invisible. They are designed to look like love, look like loyalty, look like care, while quietly removing your freedom, your confidence, and your sense of self. Nietzsche spent his life studying the hidden mechanics of human power, how it moves, how it hides, and how ordinary people unknowingly surrender it to others wearing masks of warmth and generosity. The lesson is not to become suspicious of everyone who is kind to you. The lesson is to learn the difference between kindness that opens doors and kindness that slowly, quietly locks them. Genuine people make you feel freer. They make you feel more like yourself. They celebrate when you grow beyond them. The ones who are controlling you will always, in some subtle way, make you feel smaller. Trust that feeling. It is your most honest compass. True strength begins when you understand human nature without becoming bitter because of it. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more videos about psychology, philosophy, human behavior, and the wisdom of Friedrich Nietzsche.